my name is Gabby and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, then welcome to my channel, and today's video is going to be my spoiler-free review for Take a Hint, Dani Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is the second book in the Brown Sisters Trilogy, and because I read this series a little bit out of order, there is also going to be a book series wrap-up towards the end of this video, but first, let's focus on Dani. I will have the content warnings for this book linked down below in the description, and let's go ahead and get into it. Brown Sisters Trilogy is an Own Voices adult spicy romance series, and like I said earlier, this is book number 2. And Take a Hint, Dani Brown follows our main character Dani, who after a video of them goes viral, decides to start dating her workplace's security guard. He is secretly a hopeless romantic, as she's more looking for a friends with benefits situation, but it isn't long before what she wants starts to become much more complex. So before I read this book, I had read both Get a Life Chloe Brown and also Act Your Age Eve Brown. They were two of my favorite books that I read last year, both very nearly missed 5 stars. I read Get a Life Chloe Brown first because it's the first book in the trilogy, and then I skipped over to Eve because I just liked her so much in Get a Life Chloe Brown, and then also the description of that book just really appealed to me, still does. And honestly, out of all 3 of them, I was expecting to like them all, but this was the one that I was looking forward to the least. And yeah, I was wrong. I greatly underestimated this, and let's go ahead and start with the characters. Starting with the characters means starting with Dani. I didn't really know what to expect from her going into this book. I did like her when she popped up in the other 2 books, but again, I underestimated her, which does make sense in this case because I didn't really know her. And I loved getting to know her in this book because she's incredible. From her personality to just her interest, I really loved her. And as for Zephyr, again, incredible. One of my favorite things about not only this book, but just this entire trilogy in general, is that it really deep dives into the characters. And I did love that for Dani, but where I really do think that this book excels is with its deep dive into him. And this is a book that excels at a lot of things. It was like we kept peeling back different layers of him as the story progressed, and we ended with just such a lovable 3-dimensional character, which I feel like all of the characters in this book are lovable, from our main 2 to the supporting cast, and of course that does also include Chloe and Eve, but it also includes Dani's best friend and also Zephyr's friends and family as well. And we just got so many amazing moments from the characters in this book. There were fun moments, emotional moments, heartwarming moments, and just a lot of love and a lot of support. And speaking of love, this is a romance book. Let's talk about the romance. They're kind of grumpy sunshine in a way, and I am very weak for that, and this was no exception. I love their banter and just their entire dynamic. Again, so many fun moments. And in the past with this trilogy, I have had some trouble with the relationship progression and the flow of it and just the pacing. I didn't have that with this one, and I thought that everything flowed very smoothly between them. And this does heavily feature the fake dating trope, which, not gonna lie, that was kind of hard to take seriously in this one, just because of the nature of the book. Like, how fake was that really? So the fake dating was more cute and adorable than fun, but also cute and adorable is fun. And so are the characters, so it worked. The fake dating also created its fair share of complications and angst, which was interesting, and then this also does share the credit for that with those character deep dives that I mentioned earlier. For Dani, that's her past trauma with previous relationships, and for Zephyr, that's grief and anxiety. And just like the rest of this trilogy, the way these things were talked about and dove into felt very human and also relatable. And there were things said in this book that I am going to try to take with me into my real life, which was not something that I was expecting from like a cheesy, steamy rom-com. And yet this series keeps doing it, and I love it, and I am very grateful for it. And the story is also very much that cheesy, steamy rom-com, which again, for most of it, very fun. And what I'm about to say next is really just my relationship with rom-coms as a whole. Not everything worked, and not everything's going to. Like, I didn't love some of the more possessive lines. Like, they were ignorable enough, and also not too frequent. I see what this book was trying to do and going for, and it's just a personal preference. A lot of the story also revolves around social media. Some of it felt a little bit too cheesy, but it mostly worked. So I didn't really care that much. Other than those 2 things, there were a couple of other random moments that took me out of it some, just for being too cheesy, but what I will say is that there were moments in here that should not have worked for me, and in a lesser series or a lesser book, I would have hated. And this book made it work. Like, I was smiling so much while reading this book, and I feel like these pages just flew by. And when looking back not only on this book, but also just the series as a whole, none of my complaints really bother me that much. And I also was left feeling like this book fixed a lot of the complaints that I had about these two books. So when I took all of what I just said about this book and about this series into account, yeah, I ended up giving Take a Hint, Dani Brown by Talia Hibbert 5 out of 5 stars. Which I did know something in this series was going to end up with 5 stars. I just didn't think it was going to be this one. Overall, I'm not the biggest rom-com fan, but I feel like this series slowly but surely turned me into one. And each and every one of these books is filled with so many amazing characters and even more amazing deep dives into those characters. There's fun banter and also just adorable, shippable romances. It doesn't always have my favorite pacing and can sometimes be a little bit too cheesy for me. But when I look back on this trilogy, I have to remind myself of what I didn't love because there was just so much that I did. I gave Get a Life Chloe Brown 4.5 out of 5 stars. I gave Actor H Eve Brown 4.75 out of 5 stars. And of course, I gave Take a Hint Dani Brown 5 out of 5 stars. Which is going to make my final overall rating for the Brown Sisters Trilogy by Talia Hibbert 4.75 out of 5 stars. I am actually very sad that I finished this trilogy and that there aren't any more books in this series left. I will miss them greatly. But also, I do own this book right here, Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute, and I'm really hoping that this fills the void that the series is leaving within me because something needs to. Okay, so that is all that I have for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, and answer the question that'll be around here if you want to do that, and hopefully I will see you here next time. Bye!